Good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And I have a song. It's Eddie Watkins Jr. to kick us off this morning. So let's listen to it. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Yes. I'm going to turn up my sound.
Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God lives. You are the place. Moves and breathes and has we are the place. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God. You are the place.
We are the place where God shows up. I love that song. I love Eddie. He has the best lyrics. Oh, so what a nice note to begin on this morning. That we are the place where God shows up. We're going to talk about that today. I was saying earlier that I have been exploring self-advocacy all week, and that is what I have come to, is that we are the place where God shows up. That is self-advocating. So I am going to invite Lissa, our beloved practitioner of the day, to speak to us.
As I'm sorry, I'm having a click, because when the song began and said, "I am the place where God lives," that is kind of like in the train that I was going. But then the other one, "This is the place where God shows up," I could talk of a whole different thing that happened to me yesterday. So anyway, it's a broad topic. But I think I'll stick with what I had prepared, because it was interesting to me, because when you wrote and said we were talking about the art of self-advocacy, I looked at it. Well, what it is that we really want is the art of life. But when you look at art and developing art and wanting to be to be a good artist, to grow as an artist, it's like you have first of all, you have to have your commitment that it's something that you love and comes from within, that is, you're trying to develop. But then you kind of, whoops, sorry. The whole thing takes practice to become good at it. And so we have all kinds of practices that as a spiritual person we can do to focus on creating that connection with spirit, and that thing that is working on making our life a piece of art. And you have to know, you kind of have to know the rules, which has to do with that practice and the beliefs in that practice that you build on. And of course then you require courage, because then as you're developing, it's like you begin to develop that self-love of your practice and that self-confidence in your practice, so that then you're able to get to that place where in some ways you can break the hard and fast rules because of how you have grown and what you have experienced and what you see you have developed. And then you become confident in what it is that you have developed. And that's when you are able to advocate in a way that is coming from within, that is, you are living as spirit. And it's like at that point in time, I think that's when you are able to make considerations, that in terms of knowing when you are going to advocate, it's kind of like you're able to go piffle to some of the little stuff. If somebody indicates it, insults you, you don't have to have a response or whatever. You can just be. And and then there are the places where you and your spirit know that it's a place where you have to stand fast and you have to stand in the advocacy for the beliefs that you have developed and your art, which is when you get to the place where you're the only one who likes it. And that doesn't mean that you have to throw it out. It means that you like it and you're confident that God likes it, and so therefore it's good. And so I think that it's kind of like the whole thing is a goal, the art of self-advocacy, but it is that practice, and it's that really feeling that it's important enough that you shift some of the other things that you focus on in order to dwell on that. And so it's like the world begins to get smaller and heaven begins to get larger in a metaphorical way. So anyway, that's one part. And then I wanted to share from that perspective something it was something that I heard in the midst of something I was listening to on YouTube from Alan Cohen. But he pointed out that he had heard this story about horses, and that when you have a herd of horses that are all skittish and crazy, what the handler will do is put a donkey in the circle. And the donkey has this energy of calm and munches on a piece of grass. And pretty soon, all of the horses have settled down because they have taken that energy on. And so that's the ultimate gift that we have to give to the world around us. And so I would like now to go into prayer. I know that we are able to, excuse me, breathe into that presence that is never an absence, that runs through and around and in and out of everything, and that we are blessed to have the knowledge to become connected on a conscious level with that piece of information, so that it embroiders our life in a way that creates the ability to see the real principles and joy of the divine and of life, and to look at how we feel, as Rob says, and how to feel good. And frequently we get triggered in terms of, that really felt good to me, or that didn't, and that we have the ability to shift, to have choice, because we are spiritual beings, unique and yet one. And we have the opportunity this morning to build on our evolving spiritual growth and enhancement and joy by virtue of this service, and knowing that the words of Reverend Michelle will enlighten us even further, and that we every time we are able to listen and focus on the spiritual world, we find the connection with one another and the connection with spirit to be a living energy in our everyday life. And so I am so grateful for the teachings that we have and for the knowledge that as we uplift our energy, we uplift the energy of the world. And this is a very, very valuable gift in these days of trouble. And so I release my word into the law with many grateful thankings. And we can release my word together by saying, and so it is. As spring awakens the earth, so spring awakens in my soul. New life, new ideas, and a new joy blossom within me now. I am rooted in divine mind and infinite potential. Every moment is a fresh beginning, and I rise in joy. And so it is.
And so it is. And so it is. That was beautiful, Lissa. I loved all those. And if I don't remember anything else, and I probably will because it was pretty powerful, I'm gonna remember piffle. Just to say piffle. Yeah, no. That was great. I haven't heard that word in a very long time, but it's perfect. Thank you for that. Oh, great, piffle. That is too much. All right, I love that. So I am going to play another song. This one's by our friend, our amazing friend, Karen Drucker. And I'm just going to share this sound because there's no video. So hang on while I find this out. Playing Master of Ceremonies here, and here we go.
Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. I'll sing my little mantra, I'm gonna get it in my head. Today is a party, I'm gonna leap on out of bed. And I start my day in this way, knowing everything is okay. I look for the good in everything, makes me want to say, oh, 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 something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. It's not out in the future, it's right before my eyes. The beauty, joy, and wonder, it's time I realize that every moment is a gift. All it takes is the slightest shift to see the good in everything. It'll make you want to sing. Oh, 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 something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Yeah. How can I be open to it? Gratitude, gratitude. What if I'm not really feeling it? Gratitude, gratitude. I believe in the power of what I say will be. I finally learned the lesson that gratitude is the key. Amazing, 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 amazing. It's all 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 amazing, amazingly awesome. It's gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Yes, something amazingly awesome is gonna happen to me today. Something amazing, amazing, yeah. I don't know what it's gonna be yet. It's so amazing. Something coming, something good. Something's coming, something's good.
Well, I know what is amazingly awesome that's happened to me today is being online with all of you. Oh, good morning. Wasn't that a fun song? That really woke us up. Amazingly awesome is going to happen to us today. Oh, and I'm just going to say it again, like I always do. Good morning and welcome to One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. And whether you're joining us in real time or replay, you are welcome in this space. I'm just so glad you're connecting with us. And as always, it is my sincere intention that you experience something in this service that expands your experience of your divine nature, something amazingly awesome, that you feel your own magnificence so that it uplifts you and supports you in some fresh new way that you never thought was possible. And so that is my intention. And happy May. Here we are in May 4th. You know, I've mentioned before that our parent organization, Centers for Spiritual Living, which we fondly call Home Office, they give us suggestions for monthly themes and Sunday talk titles. And sometimes I use them and sometimes I don't. But I think this month's theme is a really good one. It's Raise Your Voice. And it explores some really interesting and honestly very practical ideas. Things like nurturing strong connections with each other, building relationships like we do here in our center, but also your friends and your family. But at the same time, having healthy boundaries, creating healthy boundaries for your own well-being, and how to develop the skill to listen compassionately without judgment. And honestly, that is a learned skill. And to still be able to voice your own truth with love and honesty. You know, one time, can't remember who it was right now, told me you can tell anyone anything if you do it from love. And I think that there is some truth to that. You know, and also embedded in this month's theme is being able to voice our own truth and to resolve any conflicts through our own truth, through communication, to use our own voice to speak truth to fear without pushing back, you know, but by standing on spiritual principles from a place of peace and love. We did that in our morning meditation this morning. We used peace as the foundation to experience love and freedom. And, you know, the truth is that people always know if you're coming from a place of care and of love and compassion, or if you just want to be right. You know, there is such a difference in the energy we carry when we're coming from those two different places. It's completely different. If we're grounded in love, then we're usually willing to listen. And today's topic, as I mentioned earlier, and as Lissa mentioned for us, it's the art of self-advocacy, which is all about the importance of knowing who we are, and not from a place of egoic arrogance or superiority, but to know who we are in God, that we're all these individualized expressions of the one. We're unique and valuable. We're non-repeatable. There is no one else that is exactly like us. And to know the importance of bringing our unique gifts into the world, and at the same time seeing that potential, that same uniqueness in others and honoring it, raising our voice, speaking our truth, and honoring others is the essence of self-advocacy. I always trip over that word up until now. The idea of self-advocacy really speaks to me, and it's not something I naturally gravitate towards. And my hunch is that it probably speaks to you on some level as well. So here's an example from my own life. I love to bring personal examples to bring ideas alive. Anyway, I've been creating and delivering Sunday messages for close to 20 years now. And at the beginning of every week, I begin to think about the topic that I'm presenting, you know, what I already know about it. And I begin to contemplate how I can bring a fresh new perspective to the topic, because I've probably already spoken about it a dozen times, because, you know, these topics kind of come around from a different point of view. And almost like clockwork, I get this feeling of apprehension, you know. And I know that my apprehension is rooted in fear, right? The underlying fear that I have no idea what I'm doing, or who the heck do I think I am speaking to people about this topic? And what do I really know about the nature of reality, about God and life? You know, all that foolishness that I'm not enough stuff. You know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. And then in my moment of complete doubt, I begin to ask myself some empowering questions. And I listen. Where should I look? Guide me, point me in the right direction, which prompts me to start looking for other sources, from other teachers, from people who might have a greater maturity or a greater understanding of the topic than I do. And invariably, I find what I'm looking for. You know, I ran across some quote or some podcast that pops up on my feed, and I follow that, and I find some insight in someone else's work. And many times I find that the things I listen to and that speak to me are things that I already know, things that I already know to be true. But I hear some kernel, some new inspiration in the other person's unique perspective which helps me to find my fresh, new, unique perspective of my own, something that helps me develop a deeper embodiment of the topic, which brings me into a deeper knowing of my own divine nature, which helps me to advocate for myself. Oh my gosh, I had that in me all along, to be true to myself, if that makes sense. It awakens in me who I already am in God, and it empowers me to find my own unique voice, showing me that what I'm looking for is already within me. This is self-advocacy, finding my own unique voice in God. And we all have a unique voice. In some area of our lives, we all have a unique voice. And when we open the door, we find it. We're just such unique beings. And I realize that this is kind of a small, simple example, but it's real life. And real life is where the rubber hits the road. Real day-to-day life takes our objective knowing, yes, I know this subject intellectually, and it turns it into subjective knowing. It brings it alive in our life. We experience it. It makes it personal. The application of objective knowing builds trust and faith so that we can feel it subjectively. So that's kind of what I've come to with this idea of the art of self-advocacy. It's finding and knowing and honoring that unique voice that is who we are. So I don't know if we have any Star Wars fans here, but today just happens to be a kind of cult holiday for Star Wars fans. It's May 4th, or May the 4th be with you day, which of course is a takeoff of May the Force be with you. But it actually plays in quite nicely to the idea of self-advocacy. It invites us to trust the Force, the divine presence within us, just like the heroes in Star Wars, to listen to and to trust our inner wisdom, seated in our oneness with God, to stand strong, to speak up, to step forward, even when the path seems pretty uncertain or unclear. To speak our truth with love and with confidence and humility, but knowing our strength comes from an all-encompassing benevolent source, the Force, if you will. I actually prefer divine presence, but it's Star Wars Day. It's May the 4th be with you day. You might remember, if you've seen the Star Wars movie, that scene in the last Star Wars movie, I think it's called, I can't remember what the name of it is. Anyway, even Joseph Campbell, who's a very well-known author, wrote about myths. He writes about this scene. It's the climactic scene in the end of the first Star Wars movie. It's Luke Skywalker's last flight, and he's trying to hit this small target with a laser blast to blow up the Death Star. And Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was his mentor, says to Skywalker, just in his head, telepathically, if you will, turn off your computer, Luke, follow your feelings, feel the Force. And Luke hesitates for a moment, and then he turns off his computer and he follows his inner guidance. And of course, he hits the mark and the Death Star blows up and the good guy wins. But the question of this scene, at least for me, the question that kind of hangs in the air is, are we going to be a person who is connected to this larger life? Are we going to trust and to follow our inner knowing and listen to the wisdom within us, which is always advocating for us? Or are we going to move through life only trusting the things that we experience through our five senses? The meaning of May the Force be with you is that it speaks to that power and that energy of life, not to the status quo of how things have already been done. Obi-Wan Kenobi said, the Force is an energy field within all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates it, it binds the galaxy together. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? And I know that as we open ourselves up to trust this presence, this larger life that's part of us, this is the ultimate self-advocacy. So, as you can see, my definition of self-advocacy is awakening to our divine self, to know the fullness of our life in God, and to live that life to the best of our ability, which is ever and ever expanding. You know, it's that continuity, that continuing journey of life. And if you're anything like me, and you probably are, you started out life as a child, full of wonder and open, joyous, kind of playful and imaginative, full of love. And as life has a way of doing here on planet Earth, we begin to encounter things that might close our hearts a little bit at a time. But as we mature and we encounter different things, our hearts might begin to close a little. You know, the example of my own life again, when I was a kid growing up in the 60s and the early 70s, I saw scenes from the Vietnam War on TV every night. It seemed like there was so much division and hate. And please forgive me, Dad, but my father was a closet bigot. I heard racial slurs at my house all the time. I'd hear demeaning statements about women, and even at church, women were second-class citizens. And there never seemed to be enough money. There was always talk of land. And I could go on here for a while. We probably all could, but you get the idea. And all these things began to close my heart, you know, a little bit at a time, to confuse me, and ultimately make me question, what is reality anyway? What's really true? I thought God was supposed to be loving. What happened? You know, and that led me to making some choices in my life that were not really all that terribly beneficial to me or anyone else. And things that from today's vantage point look pretty crazy. I mean, I look at them and say, why did I ever do that? Because my perspective at the time was, I'll do anything to get away from this insanity. But here's the gift. Here's the opportunity that comes, that was born out of the gradual closing of my heart and making choices that were questionable, is that it set me on a journey of self-discovery. It made me ask some difficult, but some empowering questions. And this exploration led to the opening of my heart through the presence of love, the presence of God, in understanding my oneness with this beautiful, magnificent presence that we call Spirit, God, the all it is. And it helped me to become a person of integrity, one who truly cares about myself and cares about others. A person who actually wants to contribute to the transformation of humanity, and to do what Jesus advised us to do, to love our neighbor as ourselves. And, you know, of course, I get off track sometimes. We all do. But because I stand on this solid ground of spiritual principles, thank you, Ernest Holmes, and I have a spiritual practice, I can find my way back home again. And because I've walked through dark times in my life, and I'm sure this is true for everyone, I have begun to know through experience that there's this resiliency to life, this life within us. You know, we begin to awaken to this greater dimension of who we are, and we begin to cultivate a trust in the potential of life because of what we walked through. And this is because of our oneness with God. And we start to live, not just to know, not just an objective understanding, but a subjective experience of love your neighbor as yourself. You know, oh, doesn't that feel good to know who we are? There's this illustrative story. Actually, it's a true story. And it's about a man named Marcus. And he was this quiet guy in his 40s, kind of kept to himself, lived alone in a suburban neighborhood. He worked from home, but he'd go out and he'd walk his dog in the neighborhood, and he'd say hello to his neighbors. And across the street from Marcus lived Mr. Rivera. He was an older man, kind of surly and gruff, complained about everything that went on in the neighborhood. Somebody left their trash can out too long, he'd let them know, a little complainy kind of guy. You know the type, I'm sure. Everyone thought he was just mean and bitter and maybe a little racist. Most neighbors just kind of avoided him. And then one day, Mr. Rivera's dog got out and he ran into traffic. And Marcus just happened to be outside and he stopped the dog just in time. And Marcus returned the dog to Mr. Rivera. And Marcus thought for sure Mr. Rivera was going to thank him and slam the door in his face. But he didn't. Instead, Mr. Rivera had this genuine, heartfelt thank you. And he said, I don't know what I would have done if something happened to my dog. It was just that small gesture that cracked something open in Mr. Rivera. And I find that often it is just these little small gestures. And then Marcus and Mr. Rivera, they started waving at each other. They started chatting about their dogs, about baseball, about life. And Marcus learned that Mr. Rivera had lost his wife to cancer and that he and his son were estranged. And that the joy in his life just seemed to have drained out and to be replaced by grief. But instead of judging, Marcus listened with compassion. And he invited Mr. Rivera over for coffee. He helped him with his groceries. He included him in holiday gatherings. And Mr. Rivera changed. He softened. He smiled more. He helped his neighbors. And one day, Mr. Rivera told Marcus that he had begun to believe that he didn't deserve kindness, but that Marcus had showed him that he was worth loving. Oh, this always brings tears to my eyes. The heart of the story is that by advocating for and loving his neighbor, Marcus advocated for himself as well. By realizing that he was empowered to be such a presence of love and transformation. Sometimes it's just a matter of choosing connection over convenience or compassion over judgment, to see the humanity within others and then to see it in ourselves, even when it might seem really difficult to see. And sometimes it does. Self-advocacy, speaking our own truth, doesn't mean that our way of thinking or our way of being is the only right way and that everybody should agree with us. That would just mean we're making other people wrong. That just creates more division, more us against them kind of energy. I think it's more accurate to say that our way of thinking, feeling, being, of showing up in the world is right for us, and that it comes from love, and that we have a right to be and to express who we are in God. Ernest Holmes made it abundantly clear that freedom is a necessary ingredient for the expression of life. On the very first page of the Science of Mind text, he wrote, and I'm paraphrasing, that the divine plan is one of freedom, that freedom is the birthright of every living soul, and that mankind is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. And we certainly can't advocate for ourselves if we aren't free. And in that same paragraph, Holmes wrote that we do well to listen to our inner voice. He says, it tells us of a life wonderful in scope. This is self-advocating, establishing ourselves in the freedom of God and listening to that wise inner counsel. And I think discerning the voice of inner wisdom takes practice. And I've come to realize that my inner voice has certain qualities that are consistent, that are constant. Spirit's voice is calm and clear, firm, but not forceful. And its wisdom is always expansive. It never contracts or makes life feel at all smaller. And it always leads to feeling of love, feelings of possibility, and a sense of trust. And the voice of inner wisdom always aligns with spiritual principle. It's always rooted in universal truths. Its guidance tends to be beyond just this one moment that we're in, and it seems to see the bigger picture. Our inner voice is persistent, but it's consistent. It's often subtle too, but it's persistent. And it will consistently nudge us gently over time until it gets our attention. And for me, I don't know if this is true for you, I haven't heard anybody else say it, but for me, Spirit's voice is palpable. I can often feel it. It feels good. It feels more loving. It feels more inclusive. It feels more harmonious. And it's aligned with my values and with my heart. You know, I used to second guess myself a lot, but now I can usually discern the difference between my inner voice of wisdom and the voice from my egoic self. There's a final story I want to tell. It's a story about a woman named Lila. And she had lived most of her life by the book, you know, checking off all the boxes, always doing what seemed logical and right, you know, kind of playing itself safe. I'm sure you know people like this. You might be people like this, but she was quite successful in the worldly sense. But she said that she felt hollow and like some part of her had kind of gone numb. And one evening she was standing on the edge of an open field by her house, and she was trying to make a decision. She'd been offered a promotion, you know, and it was more money, more status, but something in her body, in her being, was whispering, no. She couldn't explain it. By all logic, she should have accepted the promotion. But there was that whisper, you know, that quiet, persistent, loving no that kept saying, this is not your path. And finally, she found herself shouting, then what is my path? I can just imagine. And then the wind answered her. This is what she says, not in words, but in a feeling. She felt still and peaceful and warm. There was no booming voice. She just knew to trust the feeling, follow peace, don't feel pressured. And then that day, she turned down the promotion and she took a sabbatical and she started doing something she hadn't done in years, but that had once brought her great joy, that she loved doing. She began to paint. And she felt kind of foolish at first, she said, but every time she painted, she had that same feeling that she'd had on the edge of the field when the wind was whispering to her, that presence. And months later, her art started attracting attention. A local gallery invited her to show her work. Commissions started coming in. She wasn't chasing success anymore. She was just following the inner voice of guidance, of the guidance of spirit. And the moral of the story is, advocating for ourselves means trusting our inner wisdom, choosing peace over outer approval or the status quo, leaning into love, however it presents itself. Spirit rarely shouts, it invites. But truth is, it can invite us, but we got to get off the couch and open the door. We have to make some moves, and we have to listen and act on what our heart tells us. So let's go into prayer around that. So I know that all there is God. All there is this amazing field of possibility, this infinite love, this freedom to know our unique self within this beautiful field, this beautiful mind of God. We live in it. It lives in us. And so I speak my word for all my beloved friends on this call, for anyone that is within the sound of my voice. That there is a knowing that rises up within us and speaks its voice clearly, calmly, persistently, consistently, and with great love and joy. That this is ours to do, or this is ours to be, simply to be the presence of love, simply to be the presence of peace. And joy rises and rises. So grateful for our oneness with this divine presence and our gift and opportunity of being able to pull it up just by focusing on it. Thank you, God, for this lovely thing we call life. All of its joys, all of its everything. Oh, so I just relax in knowing that this is all within each of us. In gratitude, I simply sit in it. I know all is well. And I let it go into the capable hands of law. And together we signify our agreement by saying together. And so it is.
And so it is.
So it is. So I think am I doing the benediction today or is it someone else? I think it's me. I'm pretty sure. That's okay. I can do it. Oh, so let's see. Let me put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing on the computer screen. I think we all actually know the ways in which we can give, that we can give on Venmo through @1Heart1Mind Center. I think it's OHUM Center, or that you can send your gift if you like to send a check to me at my address, because we don't have the PO box anymore, which is fine. But if you support our center, and I know that almost all of you do, I think you all do, I just want to express my gratitude. Thank you so much for giving us the financial freedom, the financial support that we may continue to do these Sunday services and our Tuesday classes and our Monday classes and anything else that we decide to do. I'm so grateful for that. And I told you I got my unexpected income, and I gave my $13 for my unexpected income. So that was so cool. Always feels good. And I want to keep that unexpected income flowing. So for that, I'm just so grateful. Let's say our affirmation for our giving together. There it is. Everything flows from the nature of God's good. We give and receive from this flow in gratitude and love. We rest in the infinite giving nature of spirit. And so it is. Ah, love that. And it's true. So for our announcements, we pretty much have the same announcements. Monday evening, and Nan and I and Lissa were on there together last Monday. Let's see, Tuesday we're going to be looking at, I just listened to that chapter in The Universe Has Your Back, and I like it better than the last chapter. It's an action chapter. It puts into practice the ideas that went from, objective ideas into subjective experience. I like that. So we'll be doing that. And then this afternoon, if you happen to be in the area, I'm doing going over to the Episcopal Church in Poway to facilitate the what's it called? The Essence of Prayer, Insights Through Interfaith. And I'm just really excited about listening to all the different ways in which the 8 traditions that we have time to hear from, engaged with the practice of their motives of prayer. What is your mode of prayer is kind of what I asked. And then to offer a a prayer for world peace. So everyone will be saying this is it. Each speaker only has 8 minutes to speak, so it's not like a long drawn out thing. But to tell us this is the mode of prayer we use in our faith tradition, and then to offer a prayer for world peace. And then we're coming together at the end with a compilation of a world prayer for peace, which will be really good. We need some prayer. So anyway, so I think that'll be fun. And then I made homemade lemonade, if I can entice you. I went out and picked all these lemons off my tree. And I squeezed lemons all day yesterday. Well, not all day. It probably took me an hour or so. Just squeezed lemons and I made homemade lemonade. So I'm going to share that. Anyway, that should be fun. So, Lissa, do you need me to pick you up, or can you travel down there on your own? Here, I'll unmute you. I got you.
Oh, okay. I actually was not sure if I was going.
Oh, okay. Well,
So it's only down the street. So if I'm having some issues that I need to handle, and it depends on if I'm able to take care of them in
I
time.
just wanted to offer, in case you needed a ride, you let me know.
I thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to offer a benediction. Oh, Gisela, go ahead.
I'm picking up Yvonne.
Wonderful.
And what time is it?
The service starts at 3.
3? Okay,
Probably pick it up before that.
yeah.
Let me
Thank
do the
you.
benediction. I'll turn off the recording.
Wednesday is our prayer meeting.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that. I always forget that because I don't facilitate it, and so I often get off in space. Anyway, yes. So Wednesday is related. Facilitates the prayer group. So let me do a benediction. I kind of already did, but we'll do it again. I'm just so grateful. I'm just going to speak gratitude, 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 gratitude. Gratitude just opens us up. It frees us up. It's just such a spacious energy in which we can all advocate for ourselves. And so I am knowing that something in this service touched you at a level that opened you up to something new and fresh that has always been there, but is now available for you to experience and to find joy in. So I'm so grateful for each and every one of you that's on this call, and each and every one who is not. And I know that in our world, peace is rising up from the grassroots of every heart and becoming the experience that we share in our world. So I just relax in that knowing, and together we say, and so.
So it is.
Yes.
All right, I am going to turn off our, oh wait,
The song.
but wait, there's more. I almost forgot the song, and I love the song. I really want to share it. So let me get it going here. Thank you for reminding me. I'm so funny. All right. Let me get it going. Let's see. Where are you? And this is Gary Lynn Floyd. Oops. Didn't mean to start it yet. And I just think this is a great way to kind of go out feeling good. So let's let him sing to us about every good thing.
I can imagine every high trail that I can climb, every new depth that I can sink to, every deep breath that I can find, every surprise that I can treasure. Catches me off guard every time. Every new thrill is too much to measure. Letting it fill this heart of mine. Why don't we make this last forever? Live every moment one by never say never. Take the magic as it comes. Every road that we may travel rises up to meet us as we go. There is no detail we can't handle. Heaven knows we're never far from home. Why don't we make this last forever? Live every moment one by one. Give it a chance, never say never. Take the magic as it comes. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da-da-da. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da. Hey, ba-ba-da-ba. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Why don't we make this last forever? Live every moment one by one. Give it a chance, never say never. Take the magic as it comes. Every good thing I can imagine, every high trail that I can climb, every surprise that I can treasure catches me off guard every time. Every road that we may travel rises up to meet us as we go. Every good thing, every good thing, every good thing, every good thing, every good thing.
Every good thing. That's a feel-good song. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.